Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. We're going to do another stitch with me today. I've got this chart out today because I fancied having a little stitch with it, and it's called London for those who haven't seen it before. It's a chart by a designer called Thea Gouverneur, and it's really quite beautiful. I'm working on, I believe it's an 18 count fabric, and I'm also using just one strand here and doing 1/1 full crosses, and it's a really pretty chart. And I've managed to finish a top half of this building here, and I'm just moving on to the one on the right, where I've also managed to finish, I think this is probably going to be a clock face, so it's really quite an interesting one to do. So let the stitching begin. I'm going to try and do a little bit more of this clock here, so it's going to be just another relaxing, peaceful stitch with me, so you can get your stitching out and stitch along with me. So let's get going. Now I have this lovely dark grey which I'm going to start with, and the nice thing about this designer or these charts is that they don't, the threads come already pre-cut, so there's no need to be worrying about cutting all your threads into certain lengths. I find it quite handy that these strands, single strands, are already cut up, although they don't provide the DMC numbers of the colours, which is a little bit disappointing, because if you happen to run out of one of these colours, you will probably have to do a bit of comparison work with a shade chart or something in order to try and find out which colour it is that you're using. But hopefully that won't happen. Hopefully they give you enough strands to complete the whole chart. I would hope so anyway, because I do find it quite irritating when you run out of colours. And I did find that when I was doing my Dimensions Aurora cabin, I did run out of, I think it was the navy blue. It was either 939 or 823. I can't remember exactly which one it was, but there was not enough of it to complete the whole picture. And it's not like I actually mind sort of using colours of my own, or replacing it with colours that I have, or even buying it. It's just that I think that if you buy a full kit, they should allow, you know, for sort of difficulties like when sometimes threads get tangled and you just can't untangle them, or they get knotty, so you have to ditch a thread or two. I just think it's good if they just give you the what you need plus a bit extra, if they can figure that out somehow. Otherwise it's just, you know, it's a bit frustrating. But anyway, apart from that, I had no problems with the kit. So I do find this particular chart quite simple to stitch. I mean, the needle just glides through. It's very relaxing, very easygoing. I know that there is quite a bit of counting involved because obviously you're not using, I'm not using Pattern Keeper for this one. I'm going off the paper chart, so I am doing a fair bit of sort of counting, but I'm sort of working around little areas and not going crazily cross country, and I found like that I've been able to keep my pace and not sort of worry about going wrong in any particular area, because I'm always very close to where I'm working. So if I do happen to go wrong or make mistakes, it's not going to be something I have to figure out all the way up at the other end of the chart. It's just going to be around the area that I'm working, so that's not too difficult. So I hope everybody's having a good stitching week. I've been working on my new chart as well, which is called Dreaming of Being Human by Dakota Dietweiler. It's a heaven and earth design, and I've been really getting into that one and enjoying it. Although there is a lot of blues and whites at the moment, and so many shades of blue that I have actually got confused a few times, because the blues are very light, so they're almost silvery. And when you've got like 4 or 5 shades on the go, it's very easy to get confused as to which one's which, especially if you park them in the wrong holes, which sometimes I do occasionally. And I always, if I get confused about which thread I have in which parked hole, instead of spending 20 minutes trying to figure it out, I simply snip it off and go and get the right colour again, because I find that that saves time rather than spending half an hour trying to figure out where that thread is supposed to be parked. And I won't do that all the time. Sometimes I will try and figure it out. But yeah, it's just a toss up between, you know, how much time do you want to spend looking at something and figuring it out as opposed to actually stitching. So it's a bit of this and a bit of that. Oops, I think I've actually gone down the wrong bit there. Sometimes these threads, sometimes the needle does slip a little bit underneath these threads. There, stay steady. And this is quite straightforward now, because I have been working, should be 4 stitches here. I have been working around this area so that it's easier to see where my little gaps are. So constantly going in and filling the gap. And what I have found is that there's quite a lot of backstitch on this little circle, which actually looks pretty difficult. So I'm not quite looking forward to that backstitch. In fact, when I finish these couple of stitches, I'm actually going to show you that little tiny area of backstitch, which I think is okay to show you, that tiny little bit, and you'll see exactly what I mean. It does look a bit crazy. That's 4 stitches there. Oh, but I'm only up to here. So I'm going to just quickly mark those off that I've done, because what I have found is that if I don't mark off stitches that I have done, it very quickly gets confusing. Now that pencil there isn't the best pencil I could have used. I think I actually have a better one just here. That's slightly darker. Yeah, that one's a bit better. So let me just quickly show you this back stitch that's around this clock face. Doesn't that look insane? Because the back stitch is actually going over these little ticks. So it's really confusing. And also what's confusing is you've got to remember that the grid square itself, that line, is not backstitch, because it's quite easy to sort of do one of these crazy parts and then think that this is also backstitch and start doing backstitch, which is just the grid itself. So you have to take away the grid and try to see what else is around there, because some of those stitches are on top of the grid. So yeah, a little bit crazy for sure, but thankfully it's not a huge piece to do. And what I think I will do is I will do that back stitch as soon as I have finished this piece, so that it is done, and then I feel like, hooray, I never have to do it again. That kind of makes sense to me. because if I think about all the backstitch that this piece has, when I get to the end of the chart, I can't see myself doing it all without ripping my head off. So just little bit by bit on each section for me is the nice way to go. So like with this one, I've completed all the backstitch on this one and it just looks lovely, and I know that it's done and I don't have to come back to it again. There's a bit of relief there with that. So you'd be surprised how many colours are jam-packed into this little section here. So my week has started fairly quietly, I'd say. Again, there's not a lot of stuff going on at the moment. We were sort of looking for a property or somewhere to buy, but we haven't really got into it yet because there's always so much other stuff to do first, like general banking and paperwork and stuff to figure out where you're at, and sort of what you can afford and where you want to go. A little bit of research involved. So I haven't really got right into the sort of looking for properties and actually going and seeing them. It takes a little bit of time to get to that point. But it's something I'm sort of looking forward to, and it'll be nice to have a place of my own that I can put my own stamp on it. There are pros and cons to rentals. I think sometimes it's nice to think that you don't have to worry about repairs and stuff because our landlord's pretty good and they quickly repair anything that's broken, anything that needs fixing. So that's always like, a great relief and a worry off your mind. But at the same point, it's nice to have your own place. You can put your own stamp, you can have your own craft room, you can have your own, furniture. I suppose we could have our own furniture in here, but then there's a matter of storage. We've nowhere to put the other furniture. It just gets awkward. So we're just kind of hanging out till we have a place of our own, which is going to be lovely. And definitely going to be getting my own stitchy chair or stitchy corner. I mean, if I don't get a craft room, at the very least, I would like a stitchy corner that's big enough to put all my stuff. Now, I don't want to veer too far off course with this because what happens to me is once I start getting into chat mode, I start getting into let's just stitch all over the place mode, and I don't keep an eye on what I'm doing. So I've got to jump now to up here, and I'm just going to mark that part off again so I know where I'm at. So I'm up to here. Okay, now I know where I'm at. So it only takes a couple of seconds to mark off that paper chart, which I prefer working with actually in this particular pattern. So I don't get to work on this one as often as I'd like really, because I'm quite busy with the several heids that I have that I'm working on at the moment, because I'm working on, I think I have 5 heids and 2 non-heids. That is my rotation. That is about as much as I can cope with from week to week, and I just pick and choose the ones I want to work on as and when. And I've been watching other floss tubers this week, and some of them have been saying that it's not that they wish they had more time, because we've always got more time. We've got weeks and weeks and months and years. But that they were able to do more in a day, to actually fit more stitching in. So, you know, sometimes I've heard people saying that they also get a little bit distressed because they want to stitch on, say, 2 or 3 projects, and they only get enough time, or they only get a chance to do one. And I kind of know how frustrating that is, because sometimes I have come to my stitching chair and I've seriously wanted to do 2 or 3 projects right there. And I'm thinking, oh, that's so frustrating because I can only do one. And I want to do these 2. So which one do I do? And I know that ultimately you just have to pick one, right? And go with that. Maybe do the other one later. But they do kind of call to you sometimes. And if more than one calls to you, that's when it's frustrating. When you really want to do 2 or even 3 at the same time. But anyway, we can only do what we can do, right? We're not robots, we're not superhuman. So I think we have to just accept our limitations. And I don't know, maybe just be thankful that we can do anything at all, because there are people who unfortunately would love to be able to cross stitch, but maybe they've got problems or symptoms that means that they can't do it. So I try to kind of think of that when I get frustrated and think, well, you know, at least you can do. At least you have the time and you have the supplies and you're able to do it. Because many people who would love to be able to do certain crafts and they just can't do them. So my rotation is going okay because it's kind of an as and when rotation. There is never going to be, I have to do this or I have to do that, because as soon as I start the I have to business, it all goes terribly and I just don't get anything done. I just sit there kind of staring at the wall thinking, I don't want to do this because I have to do it. And I think I get much further results and much further ahead when I actually just let myself go by instinct and what it is I'd like to do. And when I try to get a feel for what I'm in the mood for, it works out much better for me. So I'm really, really in the mood for this one today. I don't know why. I just picked it out of my box and said, come on, let's go. Let's get a bit of progress on you, because I don't often get in the mood. Now, I don't think I'm going to get hardly any more stitches out of this one. So, how many have I got here? One before the end. Yeah, I'm not going to make another row. And I think there's only one more row to go with this. But I'm just going to secure it at the back very quickly and cut it blindly, which I very rarely do now because I was making such a mess at the back it doesn't bear thinking about. And just cross this part off. Now I've only got another 6 stitches of that colour, and keeping all my colours in these lovely little envelopes just with the symbol and the number. So I bought a big huge pile of cheap white envelopes and it does the trick, and I have them in this basket and it's great. Just pick out the envelope you want when you need it. Really works well for this chart because, like I said, these are not on bobbins or of any kind. They're just simply loose strands of colour. I think they are DMC actually, but I don't know. I think what they probably do is just pre-cut them. But yeah, this is a lovely kit. It's a good quality kit, I have to say. You can see that there's quality to it and that they've carefully prepared everything. Even the chart itself is quite nicely presented. So you do sort of feel like you want to be gentle with it and take care of the fabric and everything. Now I think this is just going to look stunning when it's finished. And I've seen other floss tubers doing this chart, but the ones I've seen have mostly been on the black fabric, and I did think that this chart on the black fabric looked quite exceptional. It was very, very attractive. My only issue was actually stitching on black fabric, which I've only done a couple of times, and boy, does it make your eyes bleed. It's really quite difficult to stitch on black. So for the sake of comfort, I always go with what is most comfortable for me. And I usually find that I trust my instincts, because the minute I pick up something that isn't comfortable for me, it ends up so that I don't work on it as much, or I won't do it at all even. And I find that that's just, you know, a bit of a waste. So what really is the point? I'd rather pick something that I know I've got a good chance of continuing and finishing, because I've chosen something that I'm comfortable working on. Because there's nothing worse than having a hobby that you're not enjoying, because at the end of the day we have to remember that it is a hobby, and a hobby is something that you're supposed to be enjoying. It's not meant to be something you're doing to feel bad about or that you're not interested in. Now, which colour am I going to... Oh, there's a lot of flakes and things going on up the top of here, but I think I'm going to go for it, and I'm going to choose the next colour to go with. I'll just have a look at my symbols here and see which colour is coming up. Number 8. Where is number 8? We've got this colour coming up next. This is a beautiful, I don't even know what colour that is. It's a kind of brown, kind of silvery brown. And it literally is beautiful. I do apologise if you can hear some noise outside. There's a whole load of lawn mowing going on. It looks like the gardeners are here and they're mowing the lawns, so it does tend to be a little bit noisy. So where am I beginning this thread? Just here. It's not too difficult to count if you've got stitches around that you can use as like little counting posts. And there's no parking going on in this chart. Isn't that amazing? Considering I'm such a parkaholic, which I think I am, there is no parking going on in this chart. I just don't think it's necessary. I'm just doing colour by colour because it's not full coverage. If it was a full coverage, I might consider parking, but I don't think it works that well with this chart. 2, 3. I'm going to hop over to here. And I do have to say that the stitches do look very, very neat, which is something I wasn't sure about on 18 count, and I think that just feels lovely and smooth. Does not feel thick or bulky. I mean, sometimes I go for the thicker look depending on the chart, and other times I think the chart would look better with one strand where it would have a smoother, appearance. So that's two. Oh, I think I have actually made a mistake. 1, 2, 3. Yep, I have. I've done 1 stitch higher than I should have done, which is good that I've spotted that straight away instead of coming around it with a different colour and then being confused for about 20 minutes. So it's always a good idea to be looking at your chart whilst you're stitching and not try to think that you can just memorize where you're going next. Okay, and then jump 2 stitches to the left, and sometimes I count stitches from one side to another just to make sure that I've got an even gap between them, which helps you pick up any mistakes as well. Okay, I've got confused again. Oh no, we're fine. We're fine. Got that one and this one. You'd be surprised how quickly you can make a mistake now, even just doing 2 or 3 stitches. And just 1 more here. Not too many more stitches to go with this colour now, which is good. So I've done 3 round there, and I've got another one here. Oops, slipped through a thread again. Oops. Do try to make sure that I go through the right hole, because it's so easy to slip through the threads. And this is Ida, I believe. One, two, three. 1, 2, 3. 1 stitch here. And then just 1 more, and then I think I'm going to leave it there for now and come back to it again very soon. That's 1, 2, just double checking. 1, 2, 3 down, because always double check because if you make a mistake now and then you come back to it later, it's going to be a wreck to try and figure out, and I'm quite happy with that. So it's not going to be a very long stitch with me right now, because actually I have got a couple of things I need to do around the house, and I will come back to this in a little bit. But I just wanted to spend a few minutes with you and chat along a little bit whilst I did my stitching, because it's always nice to share your stitching with others, not feel that you're kind of solitary or all on your own doing your stitching, because that's kind of miserable, isn't it? So I do want to thank you for watching, because it's always nice to know that there's people out there who are enjoying what I'm doing and commenting. So if you've got any questions or anything, just put them in the comments, or let me know what you think of this chart. Do you like this chart? Maybe you've done it yourself. It's always good to get feedback. So I want to say thanks once again, and I'll be back very soon. So take care.